I didn't think you had it in you.
I'm your huckleberry.
Why, Johnny Ringo, you look like somebody just walked over your grave.
Val Kilmer always felt a little different from the other leading men of the 90s. He was handsome, sure, but there was a strange, restless energy behind his eyes that made every role feel just a little unpredictable. Before Hollywood came calling, he was on stage, grinding it out and learning his craft at Juilliard. You see it in his early movies. He's not just playing for laughs in Top Secret or Real Genius. He's already poking at the edges of what those characters could be. Then the hits started rolling in. Top Gun, where he played Iceman, the coolest guy in the room. The Doors, where he disappeared so fully into Jim Morrison that even Morrison's bandmates were spooked. Tombstone, with a Doc Holliday that stole the movie out from under everyone else. And yes, Batman Forever. Say what you will about the film, nobody forgets Kilmer's version of The Dark Knight. But for all of his talent, Kilmer was never the easiest guy to work with. He took his work seriously, maybe too seriously for some. He was a method actor, sometimes abrasive, sometimes lost in his own process. Directors and co-stars talked about his intensity, the way he pushed boundaries on the set. By the 2000s, the industry seemed to have had enough. His big roles dried up. In other words, he was blacklisted. And he spent more and more time in the less glamorous corners of the business. In his 2021 documentary, Val, he looked back on his choices with a mix of regret and hard-won perspective, admitting that his stubbornness had cost him more than he had realized. Still, Kilmer had never stopped working. Even as the scripts changed, he kept showing up, trying to claw his way back to the top. Then in 2015, tragedy struck: throat cancer. The surgeries that followed cost him his voice, the tool he'd relied on for decades. It was a cruel twist for a man who'd made a living out of speaking and singing and inhabiting other people's words. Even then, Kilmer didn't disappear. He found ways to stay in the game, showing up for a cameo in Top Gun: Maverick that brought more than a few fans to tears. But the fight took its toll. After years of treatment, Kilmer passed away from pneumonia on April 1st, 2025. He was Iceman on the screen, but in life, he was a true maverick. Brilliant, difficult, unforgettable. And if his career was sometimes messy, it was never boring.
All right. Cool. Sounds good.
All right. Welcome to Popped. where we talk about our favorite films. And I've got a special guest joining me today, a friend of mine that I've known for a long time. In fact, he was the first person I considered to be a host on the show with me, but the man was too busy, too damn busy. And anyway,
Sorry.
without further ado, this is Chris Scott. How you doing, Chris?
Doing well, Daniel. How you doing?
It's another day here in paradise.
Oh, good.
Tanya and I have been going through a little existential crisis, which is why there's such a long hiatus for the show. And I figured the only way to fix that is to get right back in the saddle and start recording again. And I thought the best way to do it would be to start off with a remembrance episode for an actor who I really enjoyed. I don't know if you'd enjoyed him or not. I guess we're going to find that out here. But it would be Val Kilmer. Tell me what your feelings are towards Val Kilmer and what you recollect is maybe like the first thing you ever saw, and kind of go from there.
Well, for me, Val Kilmer, he's like a staple of 80s, 90s, movie cinema. And I mean, we all kind of, everybody in our kind of demographic kind of grew up with him in a way. And he's been in a lot of stuff. My first movie seeing him, like I'm sure a lot of other people, Top Gun. And, of course, that's always going to be on my top movie list of Val movies, just because, I mean, I was a kid. My dad was in the Air Force. It was, it was all about, I've always loved planes. I've always loved the coolness factor of it and all that. And it just, that's a movie that stuck with me through my entire life.
So your dad was in the Air Force and you weren't a Iron Eagle guy, huh?
Nope, not Iron Eagle, which is also kind of odd. I have always loved F-16s, but I fell in love with the F-14s when I saw Top Gun.
Mm-hmm.
Coming back to F-16s, that kind of brings another like Air Force connection, which is kind of funny. My uncle, he was at one point, I think it was between 2002 and maybe it was 2000 and 2002. He was the commander and leader of the Air Force Thunderbirds.
No kidding.
Yep.
Wow.
So my uncle, Colonel Richard McSpadden, legendary pilot. And
that was
a great guy.
That was a high school dream of mine, to be an F-16 pilot.
Yeah.
And that died pretty hard.
Oh.
I moved around too much. Grades went with me.
The
grades went when I moved.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So yeah, being
that
a pilot,
happens.
you got to have really good grades and the right kind of mindset for it. And I decided to be a musician, kind of like you did.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good fallback. No pun intended.
Speaking of fallback,
but,
yes, you are wearing a shirt. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your band?
Oh, going into that right away. Okay.
Why not?
All right. Hey, yeah, why not? Well, yeah, I'm in a band called The Fallback. We're kind of a punk rock outfit, melodic punk, skate punk, whatever kind of punk you want to call it. I don't know. We're just four old men trying to stay young. Yeah, just in it with a few good buddies of mine, and just going around playing shows where we can and putting out music when we can. Got a few shows coming up. Two in the Sacramento area in the next few months, and then another one in the Reno area, and then another one in the Bay Area. So we're staying kind of busy. We got some. We're going to be going into the studio soon and putting out some new music soon as well. So
if people want to learn about your band, know where you guys are playing, where should they go? Facebook, or you have a website or something?
Just go outside and yell really loud, and we might hear you, and we'll. No, that was dumb. Anyway, no. So what we can look up? You can look us up by at the Fallback 916 is our handle on pretty much any social media website. We're on Spotify also. It looks like there are a couple other Fallback bands on Spotify, but makes it kind of confusing because there's actually one of the other ones. They actually have a similar picture, a similar like main profile picture to us also.
Really?
Yeah. So we have kind of an astronaut as our profile picture right now, and there's another one with an astronaut, but we're the one that's more bluish astronaut, and we're the one with better music too.
I don't think you can say that anymore. Well, I guess it doesn't matter on our show, but on some shows you'd have to say buttronaut.
That's true. Good one.
Yeah. Anyway, Yeah, so it's funny that that the band is going really well. I'm very happy for you. I know you and I had actually spoken about doing something together, and then the pandemic hit right after we'd had our first practice.
Oh yeah, I
Remember that?
remember that. I remember that.
I was
Yep.
looking at like playing casinos or those high end venues, wineries and whatnot, and that all went to pot.
Yep.
So
Oh, it shut everything down. I mean, with this, with the fallback, we were just about to get things rolling and start booking our first shows, and it hit, and everything shut down, and nobody was booking anything again. And so we were just kind of out of luck. And so we kind of had to like put a hold on it, and we were just on, kind of a hiatus for a while, while we were just doing the whole stay at home thing and all that. But
mhm.
and eventually we started chancing it, and two of us started getting together, and just jamming out a little bit more. And as time went on, things started coming back together. But yeah, that really put a big hold on what we were doing too.
Yeah, I recall that. In fact, when I first started this show, I was really interested in having you come on, and because I stopped doing music altogether. I was teaching, and I had to stop teaching. I had to stop, the ideas of like, oh, I'm going to go out and play in public. We had no idea when the lockdown was going to be done.
Yep.
So
Yep.
this podcast came to me, and I'm like, oh, yeah, Chris is probably doing nothing. I get in contact with you, and you're practicing with what, two or three bands at the time?
Oh, I don't know. It was something like that, maybe. I don't know. Had one
Yeah.
main one, and helping out this one over here and helping out that one over. I don't know.
Well,
It
hey,
was odd.
at least something good came of it. You've been playing quite a bit, which is excellent since the pandemic stopped.
Yep. Yep.
I've been doing this, and we'll see where this goes for going forward from here. But let's see. We were talking about Val Kilmer, and I think we should probably get back on track a little
Back
bit.
on task here.
Yeah, because I mean that is what the show's about.
That
And
is.
for me, I think my first memory of Val Kilmer, I would want to say it's Willow, but it's not. It's actually Top Gun.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
remember
Top Gun came
because
out first too.
did it?
So,
Why
that
it
makes
feels
sense.
like Willow's older for some reason.
Yeah, no, Top
Um,
Gun, I want to say was 86, and I think Willow was around 88,
I think that's
maybe.
due to the fantasy sort of old world aspect to it.
It could be.
The special effects maybe as well might
Yeah.
make it look a little bit older than it actually is.
Yeah, that dragon was a little cartoony.
A lot of the stuff was kind of
That was
cartoony in
that
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 film.
was.
But I enjoyed Willow, and I enjoyed Top Gun quite a bit. But Val Kilmer, he didn't strike me in that film. I liked him, I guess, especially towards the end. But because he's the antagonist, you don't really think about him that much in terms of, oh, I really like this character. I do that more now when I watch stuff. Oh, the antagonist. This guy's really playing a good bad guy. But
Yeah.
he wasn't really even a bad guy in Top Gun. He was just an antagonist. The more I watched that film, the more I realized that it's Maverick who's the complete dick. But
Oh, pretty much, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, the whole movie, like all of them, everyone there except for Goose, everyone in that movie is a cocky asshole.
right.
And I mean,
But that's what
kind
you
of,
need to be a Top Gun pilot.
yeah,
Apparently.
that's what the Flyboys, typically are. It's how they get where they are, and to be the best, you got to know you're the best. So, it kind of follows suit for the characters.
I found it really refreshing that they brought him back for Top Gun Maverick.
That
Uh,
was a fantastic surprise.
wasn't it?
Yeah, even though it was, it was sad in that, you saw where he was at that point in his actual life. And from what I heard, even like when I was watching the movie, I actually thought it was him talking. Just with the, the kind, they still kind of had the labored speaking and all that. But from what I heard after seeing it, I believe it was his son that lent the voice, his speaking voice in that as well. It's like they did with the his son narrated his documentary.
Yes, which I just
And
watched. We were
oh,
really good.
a fantastic documentary. Yeah, and it blew me away how, like, just how similar to Val's voice his son is. Which,
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
crazy.
yeah.
It's just really genius. Uh the documentary itself, because it's so much that he had the foresight to record so much of his life.
Oh
So he
yeah.
had tapes and tapes and tapes to go through to put together this documentary.
And this
And
was back before the everyone has a camera on their cell phone days too, so it was even harder carrying
yeah,
around an
he's carrying
actual.
around an actual VHS
Yeah,
recorder, man. Remember those things?
yeah.
Those big
Oh
clunky
yeah,
ass things.
yeah.
I used to
Oh
record with
man,
them
another
in film
another
school.
another uncle of mine. Yeah, another uncle of mine had one of the full size ones that fit the full VHS tape in it. It
Yes, that's
wasn't
what
even
I
a
was talking about.
VHS-C or a Super 8 or anything. Yeah. And he had one
Oh,
of those. Anytime he'd come to visit, he'd bust that thing out and we'd be recording a VHS and we could immediately throw it in the VCR and watch it.
yeah. And then they went to a smaller model with the small tapes, right? And then you could take
Yeah.
that and interface it with your VCR and record it
Yep.
onto a cassette, which
Yeah,
yeah,
that was VHS-C. Those tapes were VHS-C, so it
right.
was like a compacted VHS that you could fit inside of a VHS size adapter,
Oh yeah.
and it just stretched the tape out over the rollers and played it as a VHS tape. But then they came out with the with those Super 8 ones that had the had the 8 millimeter film, so they were they weren't compatible with the VHS. So those ones you actually had to plug your camcorder into the TV if you wanted to watch them.
Oh yeah.
So that was kind of annoying. They may have been better tapes, but made it more annoying for us.
I know that my mom has several tapes of that I recorded years and years ago that I'd love to get transferred so I
Ah,
could watch them all again. But yeah, I didn't keep anywhere near what Val did.
oh yeah.
Yeah, I
That was
probably got about
impressive.
5 hours worth of stuff, and he had what, years?
Oh yeah, years exactly. Yeah, he probably had to pour through a library. I'm sure he had some kind of library for all of his videos, labeled catalog system. He probably had the whole thing set up.
For those of you who are watching us right now, there's a documentary called Val, and we highly recommend you watch it. That's what we're talking about at this moment. Val Kilmer recorded over the period of his life uh, with a video cassette recorder and probably other things as well. Just about everything that he did, including the initial things he did with his brother, which was a really tragic story. But it sort of is the impetus of who he became and who he was. You're kind of a misunderstood actor, and he honestly felt like he'd been blacklisted. And if you look at his films, you can see like this progression, these really big hit films, and then all of a sudden it tapers off, and he's kept busy, but they were just sort of like B films for the most part. Back market. I mean, you got a couple good ones in there like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And you get, I
but
mean, that's kind of the downfall with being the type of actor he was,
mhm,
where he's like, he was a method actor. He, his work was his life. Like he committed
right.
his entire self to these roles, and he was a perfectionist on it as well. So, and I mean, I have myself, I have a bit of the I don't know if you'd call it perfectionist, but or if you just call it OCD, but it's just like there's certain things where it's just like if certain details aren't perfect, you need to go back and redo them until they are. And you just sometimes in that kind of setting, I'm sure he wasn't happy with his performance in a lot of parts where he had to go back and redo and redo and reshoot and reshoot. Where I'm sure he had a lot of he built up a lot of frustration, which probably translated onto the set, onto the other actors and onto the crew and whatever. And I'm sure that maybe gave him a reputation in some circles of being hard to work with.
Yeah, he was
And
known as being difficult to work with. Some directors swore never to work with him again,
yep.
um, which is unfortunate because there was a lot of talent there. The guy went to
Hmm.
Juilliard,
Yeah.
um, and he grew up in Chatsworth, California. There's an interesting tie for me there. The bass player in my first kind of really big band, Die L'Oreal, his name was Torin Monahan, and he was the bass player in our band from Chatsworth, California. So,
Yeah.
looking at the time period, might have known each other. I don't know.
Could
I should
have.
ask Torin.
He might have
But
been. He might have come to one of your shows.
yeah, I doubt
That's
it.
true. You
uh,
never know. You never know.
he's a little bit older than we were, so
Ah,
not
he might have
Generation
been.
X,
He might have been booking the shows then.
right? He's probably
I
outside
don't
yelling,
know.
"You guys are too loud," like a boomer.
Turn it down. Yep,
uh,
could
so
be.
yeah, man. The films that he did, a lot of them come to mind, and we're going to talk about our top 5 favorite films that he did. And I'm sure you've got a little list there. I've got my own list, but I want to talk about the films that kind of stick out to me without the list right now. I think I rewatched Willow recently. Wow, I can't even say it. Rillo. I
Brillo?
rewatched Willow recently, and
Gotcha.
I was taken by how good it was. It's actually better than I remember, which
Yeah. Story wise, it actually holds up,
the
when
story
you're,
holds up.
as far as fantasy films go. Like if the special effects were a little updated, it could be, for all we know, if it was released today, it could end up being right up there with like the Lord of the Rings stuff and
The special
those kind of
effects, and if
things.
some of the fight scenes had been choreographed a little differently and with
Yeah.
better angles instead of it
Yeah.
looking as fake as some of it did.
Yeah.
So there was that.
Kind of
We were on
stage
par with like
stage play looking
Conan
instead of
2.
real. Yeah, yeah.
you know.
Which was a great movie to some.
Yeah. It was one of those films that I winced all the way through.
Yeah.
I'll just put
That's
it that way. Especially
you
after
know,
watching the original and then going to that.
yeah. Oh
Yikes.
yeah. Yeah, the first one, I mean, that it was the first one was kind of hokey on its own too, but it was still a good watch, but yeah, it was a fun one. But yeah, anything past that, that
Right.
what was it? Destroyer, Conan the Destroyer and
That's
Red Sonja, wasn't it? Wasn't the
Red
other one
Sonja, yeah.
he was in? That one wasn't like specifically about him, but he was in it kind of thing.
I don't remember
But
that being bad, but I haven't seen that one since it was in the theater.
yeah, it's
So
been a long time for me too. But yeah, I don't remember either of those being up to par with the first one.
yeah. Yeah. The
But
first Conan film is the best by far. I know they
yeah,
tried to remake it recently with Jason Momoa, and even Jason Momoa is not happy with the product that
oh
they
yeah,
got. So
they need to stop remaking classics. I think
I
that's
I
that's what it
agree.
is.
I
They do
agree.
that. They do that, and it takes away the essence of the original.
It depends too on what the classic is. Like,
Yeah,
they remade Battlestar Galactica, and that came out
yeah,
actually phenomenal.
yeah,
But, there's certain
yeah.
things you just should, like the Breakfast Club. Don't remake the Breakfast Club. That's
Oh,
a
I heard
it's a
about them doing
time
that.
period specific film,
It is.
and
It is.
you're not going to get away with the stuff you got away with in that film. A
Oh yeah.
and it's a the music is also a big part of it.
Oh, it revolved around the music.
The music,
Yeah,
the
and if you did
kids,
that,
the time
if you
period.
did that today and tried to create a new soundtrack, it'd be all Taylor Swift and Lady Gaga or whatever, or just that might be dated by now too. It might be some whatever the new flavor is, but most stuff these days are not to knock Taylor and Lady Gaga. I mean, I have to say they have some stuff that that is it's doable. It's
Mhm.
not quite up my alley, but
I've taught
you
enough
can tell
Taylor
it's a
Swift
little.
songs to tell you that a lot of them are actually very well constructed and written.
Yeah, yeah, they do have some talent, but yeah, I'm talking about more like the so much of it is just saturated with like the flash in the pan kind of just cookie cutter pop stuff these days, and where it wouldn't
Yep.
where the soundtrack and just the overall vibe of the first one, it wouldn't be able to be recreated
Well,
today.
you'd either have that, this oversaturated pop music stuff, or you'd have that where they take a good song and then they have some sad, depressed girl sing it.
Yes.
Ah,
Oh yeah.
ah, what is this stuff? There's like a whole channel of music where it's
It's
just like
it's a
cut
vibe.
my wrist, man. I can't
Right,
handle this.
right.
Like you took a song that was already sad and somehow made it like just unlistenable.
Yep,
So
yep. That yeah, it's just things have to be updated, and sometimes, most of the time, the update isn't a good one.
right. I was trying to think
What are you gonna
about
do?
even the setting for Breakfast Club now. It's like school detention. Like there's all the kids all on their phone.
Yep.
No one talks to each other.
Oh yeah, there'd
Nothing's
be there'd
learned.
be no script. No script whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yep.
They
So
wouldn't
many of
even
these
hate
schools
they
that
wouldn't even
that
hate the teacher because the teacher'd be over there on his phone, like,
oh yeah.
what's up?
Yeah, so many of these schools nowadays also they don't I wonder how many actually even have detention anymore. There's because there's so many schools they and I mean, I have mixed feelings about the process where if kids are misbehaving and get in trouble and all that stuff, instead of straight up punishment, going to detention, getting suspended and all that, they'll do things like what one of my daughter's school, they do a restorative circle, or they used to. I don't know if they still do, but they'll get the kid together with whoever the conflict was with and sit them down to talk it out and then send them on their way, kind of thing. But I
Hmm,
mean, I get the concept, but
right.
I mean, at the same time, I mean, that kind of removes consequences, and consequences are, are a big part of, how I learned right from wrong and to not do things when I was younger.
Yeah,
But
that's a
who knows?
whole other can of worms, a whole other discussion.
It is. But let me tell you how this relates to Val Kilmer.
Let's hear it.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
All right. Well, there we go.
Basically, tangents. That's what we're talking
Tangents.
about today.
All right. Let's getting off of tangents. We'll go back to some of the other films. I mentioned Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which is really good. My favorite thing about that film, I think, for Val Kilmer, as far as he goes, is that he managed to play a gay character without going tropey, without going stereotype.
That is a movie that I actually have not gotten around to seeing,
Hmm.
but I can say that I could see Val pulling that off and pulling it off well. Like
He
there's
did.
and also being able to pull it off without like the general consensus of the public viewing it, having any kind of change in view of him as a person. Like there was that whole like the Brokeback Mountain where Gyllenhaal and Heath Ledger, they had their roles, and then in life they started just getting bombed by homophobes and all this stuff, and just like, oh, this guy, they're attacking their general character,
Hmm.
and where and that's not to say that either of them are bad actors or anything.
No, no, no.
But
They're
Val
but they
Val
are
is the
acting.
type where, yeah, they are acting, yes. But Val, I feel like Val, he would be able to do something like that with a character where it's just like you'd be able to see him as just the character, believe him as that character, but then be able to also separate that character from who he is as in real life.
What I really like about the character, once you get to watch this, he basically goes around just sort of tolerating everybody,
Yes.
which I found like wonderfully marvelous. And it was in the way he delivered his lines more than actually the lines.
Yeah.
But then every once in a while, he'd be able to bust out with something and be like, "You're a moron," and it's good stuff.
Yeah.
Let's
He
talk.
always has had some great delivery.
He has. Speaking of which, Ghost in the Darkness, another film I really enjoyed. Michael Douglas and him. Do you remember
That is
the?
an under the radar one. Oh my gosh.
This was one I loved,
Yeah.
and it's about an engineer who is sent to Africa by some British overlord to make sure that this bridge gets built in this area because it's not happening. They need somebody who can do it quick. He's this Irish guy who served in the British military, so he's got a military background, and he gets out there, and the natives are afraid. The natives are restless. They're supposed to be helping build this thing, and they can't do it without their help. But the people are being slowly picked off by these two by well, I think it's two, but there's a couple of lions, and the lions have gone from just hunting into turning it into somewhat of a sport.
Ah,
So Michael Douglas's character shows up. He's the actual hunter, and he helps this guy try to track these lions down. And it is surprisingly stressful to watch.
yeah, with you describing this, I was thinking I'd seen this a long, long, long time ago and didn't remember anything about it. But with the description, I'm realizing I have not seen this one,
Yeah,
and I need
check
to.
this out. Check this
It
out. You'll
sounds
like
really
it.
good.
Since you haven't seen it, I'll move on to another one. Maybe you've seen, which is Thunderheart. Have you seen that one?
Thunderheart.
And
Oh man, I'm striking
now
out
I'm
here.
hurting you here.
That one, yeah, you are. I have not even heard of that one actually.
Another one you should check
Thunderheart.
out.
Oh
Yeah,
man,
he's an FBI
that
agent
one.
who has some Indian blood in him. So they send him to this reservation where there's been a murder to help investigate and break it down and figure it out. But the Indians don't care for him. And I don't necessarily say Native American because Indian actually means people of God. It's not an insult to say Indian. So I'm just not going to play
Gotcha.
politics with that. Um,
Just to
so
just to clarify.
just to clarify before people write in and say,
Yeah,
"Oh, you can't say Indians," I'm saying Indians because it's not a bad word. Um, anyway,
you're using it by definition.
people of God, yes, um, and he's brilliant in this part. He's not really accepted by either the FBI or the Indians, and it's great because he's kind of towing this fine line and trying to build trust throughout this film, and it's definitely worth a watch. It's a good film. Uh,
Very cool. I'll have to look that one up because I hadn't even heard of that one.
I'll
That
bring up
is
one that I
it looks
know
like here
you've
it
seen.
was done in 92.
92, you're right. Oh yeah, I don't even have
Yeah, so
anything open right
that
now.
was a while ago. Oh yeah, I got my little cheat sheet over here.
Gotcha. So I'm going to bring up one that I know you know. Any guy that's ever loved fucking movies with guns and violence and Robert De Niro and Al Pacino, Heat, bank
Oh,
heist.
Heat. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah. He was a great one. That was
That's
kind of
one of the greatest films of the
what I kind of
'90s.
liked. Yeah, it is a great one. What I kind of liked about him in that one is he was almost in a way a modern day Doc Holliday to the crew that he was in.
That's
You
right.
know, and it just it was kind of I'm sure he now let me see. Let me check the
Wasn't
because
his
that came
wife
out after
Ashley Judd in
Tombstone, I
that?
believe. But
Was it?
yes,
Yes.
she was.
And
Yes, she
she's the
was.
one who waves him
Let's
off
see.
at the end.
Yep,
Like she
that
did the
was
thing with the
oh man.
hand. I'm like, oh, that's so great because
Yep,
I was rooting for him.
that was yeah, that I was too. It was great. It was kind of a conflicting emotion part where you're just like you're hoping okay, it's he's going to go in there, but then you're wondering if she's gonna screw him over or if she's gonna get his back and all that. So it's kind of like heartbreak, but at the same time, yes, right
Yeah.
on, kind of but yeah, but that was there was a lot of good stuff with that in that one. Yeah, and that one came out. Oh, that came out what 2 years after Tombstone. So I want to get the timeline down. So when I'm saying
Right.
he was a little modern day Doc Holliday-ish, I want to make sure that I'm saying that he kind of drew from his role in Tombstone for that movie instead of saying he drew from his role in Heat for Doc Holliday,
Yeah. Yeah.
if that makes sense.
It makes sense. I just wanted to point out too with Heat, one of the things that I loved about that film, I think it was the first time I ever watched a film where I was cheering for both the good guys and the bad guys.
Yeah,
Right? The bank
yeah,
robbers, they're just guys that are trying to make their lives better. Of course,
yeah.
with semi-automatic weapons,
Yes. Yeah,
breaking
of
into places,
course.
but it was so brilliantly done.
Yeah.
And the
Everyone's got their eyes on the brass ring for it, and you don't know who to judge. And I mean, of course you got Pacino, you got De Niro, you got so many
powerhouse,
people. Yeah, you got so
powerhouse
many people, just
performances. Yeah.
that kind of ensemble. It's just like you have so many people that you love and you want to root for. So it's just even if they are, heroes and villains and all that, you want everyone to win.
Right.
And
Yeah,
it turns out
absolutely.
everyone loses.
Well, I mean, do they really? Not
Well,
everybody loses.
yeah, I
Almost
guess
everybody
not. I
loses.
guess. Yeah, it's
But
true. That's true. Yeah.
you brought up Tombstone, which is another big film and probably the one that most people think of next to Top Gun when they think of Val Kilmer. And I'm gonna go out on a limb and actually say more people think of him from Tombstone now because that
I think you're right.
character is so iconic. And it was so yeah, he was in Top Gun and he was an antagonist and people will remember him, the bite.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but when it comes down to it, like the character he played as Doc Holliday to me is the penultimate character that he's played, maybe next to Jim Morrison in The Doors.
Yeah,
You
see
know,
that is kind of a little I don't know, a little balancing act for
that's
me
an
between
unlubricated
Tombstone.
seesaw.
That is.
Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, I'm kind of I'm torn. I've always been torn on between Doc Holliday and Jim Morrison for him because both were amazing performances. But I would actually, as far as as far as the the caliber of performance, I would almost lean more toward Morrison because that one, I'm thinking about it. They were both fantastic roles. He pulled them off
And
amazingly.
he was
They were
singing.
all amazing, and he was singing in the Doors. I think the defining factor here is in the Doors. He's playing someone that existed in our lifetime. That there is actual photographic, videographic, audio record of who that person was versus Doc Holliday. All there are is pictures and stories, but
Well, and
there's no actual.
they did fabricate a few facts too.
Oh
Like
yeah, of course
Doc
that's going to
Holliday
happen.
most likely did not kill Johnny Ringo.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah, but I mean, just character wise, from speaking from that standpoint, He kind of, he had his reference material as far as the history and the pictures to get whatever looked down, and whatever was documented on mannerisms. So he could kind of build a character from that into what he felt Doc Holliday should be. And he essentially created his version of Doc Holliday,
Mhm.
whereas being Jim Morrison, there's so much out there that is just record of who Jim Morrison actually was and video of him actually being Jim Morrison that so many people know they knew of beforehand, just from the Doors being the Doors and all that before the movie even came out, that there had to be a huge population that were taking his performance in the Doors and putting it side by side with the real Jim
True.
Morrison and comparing. And the fact that he got so identical to him that even the members of the band were blown away
It's
by
impressive.
how he became him and
Mhm.
how his voice mimicked him and his movements and his mannerisms and all that. They even the members of the band were blown away by it.
Well,
And
I'd say it's a good discussion to have because you're talking about a character where there was all this material to draw from and in fact imitate to become this person. Whereas with the Doc Holliday character, he pulled a lot of that stuff out of thin air. He
he
knew
did.
who the person was, but he also created a unforgettable performance without knowing any of that stuff. So if you think about it, both have equal merit. Now, as musicians, I think you and I are probably a little more drawn to the Jim Morrison performance because not only was he singing, which is impressive to us, when you can actually do the things, when you can play an instrument, when you can actually sing and not just turn some machine on behind you or have a little DJ thing in front of you, you're a musician, and the dude's a musician. He could
Yeah,
sing. He
that
could
is
do what
true.
he could do exactly what he was supposed to be doing on screen and act and be the character. That to me is what's impressive. You and I have both played in front of large audiences on stage. We know what that's like. And when I watched that film, that I could feel those moments coming back to me again, where I had done those things. Hell, man, I followed your band around for a while when you were in the Beatles tribute band. You know,
Yep, yep.
was I your stage manager when you were still in it, or is that after?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
you were my I think for a little while before I got fired.
yeah. Well,
I
I
always
think
I always got to
I think we
throw
all
that in
kind of
there
got the
because some
boot. There was a
yeah,
confusion at one of the shows over who drank so much between myself and another person, and I'm not going to say names. I'm not going to like talk them down or anything, but suffice it to say that trust was broken there. So
ah,
I wasn't. I
it'll
didn't come
happen.
back either. Both of us were let go after that. So
Oh man. Well, we're on the
anyway,
outs.
yeah. I mean, I don't regret those days. Maybe
Oh yeah, not at all.
letting the bartend get out of control, but
Yeah.
definitely not those days. That was a
That
lot of fun.
happens though. It was. It was. Yep.
Uh,
Yeah, and it's a yeah. I mean, we're I'm still on good terms with all those guys, but I
oh,
always
same
just
here.
have to. Yeah, I always just have to throw that out, throw that out there because I'm sure they'll be watching. So that was for them. So
Yeah,
those dicks firing me.
you weren't 5 foot tall enough, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. It's kind of bad when Ringo, who was the shortest member of the band, comes out and he's taller than everybody.
Right? Yeah.
That must have been it. I think that's what it was.
Well, you were damn good at it, so at least there's
Yeah.
that. You
Well,
can
being
walk away with
tall.
knowing that. No, I mean you played the drums, like you're playing guitar now and singing. You play
Yeah,
drums, you
yeah.
do all the things. I do not play
Eh,
drums, man. That's an
it's
animal
easier than you think.
I never tried to work with. So
Well, yeah, it was. Honestly, it wasn't easy. But if you're gonna learn drums when when you join a band as a drummer, when you're gonna start learning drums right then, Ringo's a good drummer to have to learn.
right. Well, yeah, a lot of those
He
drum beats
wasn't.
were pretty basic.
Yeah, he was a great. He's always been a great drummer, but he was never super flashy. So it was always
Yep.
pretty
He's all about
straightforward.
timing.
Yep,
Um,
yep.
so getting back into the whole Val Kilmer thing,
Oh
um,
yeah, him.
that's who we're talking about. I think when he died, I knew it was coming,
Oh
but
yeah,
this pervasive sadness that followed it. Like, oh my God, this guy was an icon of the film era. You know, when I was really, really into films, I went to film school, and it was, I mean, we weren't studying Val Kilmer by any means, but this was during the time when I was doing all of that. And I was looking into things like symbolism and metaphor and the way films are shot and little subtle clues and things that a director can throw in on the screen that mean something much larger. So I was very interested in pulling apart performances and actors and whatnot. And I remember Val Kilmer really stood out to me in that time period, especially for things like Heat and Tombstone and whatnot. But I guess what I'm doing now is sort of moving us towards our top 5 Val Kilmer films list.
Oh, God.
Rain cloud.
Subtle.
Do you want my 5 and then you do yours, or how do you want to do this? You want to give me your 5?
Yeah, sure. Why don't you fire them off first, and then I'll follow.
Right. So
I'll follow with the correct ones.
You know who does that is Wes Chatham. So these are the correct top 5. Yeah. If you ever listened to, are you a fan of The Expanse?
Of The Expanse, I am not familiar, but I do see the poster behind you right there. So
yeah, definitely worth watching. Make sure you sit through the first season because it gets intense. But Wes Chatham is one of the actors on there, and he has a podcast, and he says, "No, I'm going to give you the correct 5, and then you can give me yours." So
there we go.
You just pulled a Wes Chatham.
Nice. All right, cool.
And
so I would like him.
If he ever watches this, yeah, I think he would.
Right.
If he ever watches this, I'm sure he'll be laughing. So
nice.
All right. Number 5 is actually a tie between the 2 films you hadn't seen, The Ghost in the Darkness and Thunderheart. They were both equally good, and I couldn't within myself let one of them be knocked off of this list. Number 4, and this one I almost knocked this one off for the other 2, is Top Gun. Believe it or not. And only because even though he's landmark portrayal, it's important, the character's important, I feel like he's done other things that were better, which puts me at number 3, The Doors. Believe it or not, it's at 3. Despite all the good things and wonderful things they said about the performance and everything, when it comes to trying to rank what I feel are the ones that stick out to the most in my mind, the ones that pop into my mind when I think of him, The Doors actually were around number 3. So number 2 is Heat.
Right.
And we spoke about that. I feel like his, you said his character was like the Doc Holliday of that film, and I would kind of agree with that. He was just that cool dude that I was like, man, if I was a bank robber, this is the dude I'd want to be, right?
Yeah,
for sure. Not that I'm a bank robber. Sure. Put that out there. Anyway, so
now
my number 1,
we'll suspect you first next bank robbery we hear about.
Man,
especially if it's
I'd be doing
Val
a lot
Kilmer
better
style.
if I was a bank robber. Trust me. Getting to number 1. So the number 1, obviously, which he drew upon for Heat, would be Tombstone. And the Doc Holliday performance, to me, it's iconic. It is the one that he is most remembered for. And I feel like even with The Doors being as good as it is, this is the one that pops into my mind first. I was even Doc Holliday for this last Halloween. So
I saw the pictures, actually. Yeah. Looked good.
Here's the picture right here.
Lovely.
Yeah, we'll do that in post.
Damn, you're looking good there.
Yeah, you can't see it, don't you? But
I'm looking at it right now, I swear.
All right.
Wait, will be here or there? But yeah, we'll find it.
All right.
Yeah,
so
you look great there.
That was the good and better list. Let's hear the correct list.
The correct list. All right. Well, I don't know. That's pretty good. Mine's pretty similar. Mine's actually pretty similar to you. So I do have that one movie that I haven't seen. Is number 1. Just kidding. So no, that's my sad attempt at humor.
Hey,
all right. So I'm gonna say
I laughed even from the belly.
Nice. Even if it's a sympathy laugh, I'll take it.
I was not
So,
sympathy, bro. Trust me,
oh, all
sympathy's more
right.
like.
Gotcha. All right. Oh, I get those a lot more often. Okay, you're right. All right.
All right, just
I'm very
go.
familiar. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna say number five. It's honestly, it's more of a personal pick to me than a, based on the craft. But I would say Top Gun Maverick,
Oh
just
wow,
because of the sentimentality factor when he showed up, and it's just kind of,
gut
it's just
punch.
like he gets up on the screen, and all of a sudden you got all the feels. It's just like it's just such an iconic role from my childhood, and that's my entire life, where you finally see it's kind of, you see these movies, these sequels that are done 30 years after the fact, and all the characters they've aged, and they're trying to play older versions of themselves and all this. But with this one, it was different. It
Yeah.
was different with Val, just because he's in the condition he was in, and he was trying, but he was still pulling off Iceman.
Well,
But
and then they wreck you later
yeah.
on. I'm not going to
Oh
say
yeah.
why in case somebody hasn't seen it because it is fairly recent
Spoilers.
film. It is a
Yep.
fairly recent film. The older films I don't mind about throwing spoilers out because if you haven't seen them
Oh
by
yeah.
now, that's not my fault.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And the older ones by now, the spoilers are everywhere, so you're not doing any harm really.
Right.
But yeah, so that yeah, there was just that was kind of on a sentimentality angle for that.
We actually
Um
reviewed Maverick on this show for our Patreon. So
I
yeah,
don't
the
I'm
audio is
trying
terrible. the
oh man,
editing is
man,
amazing,
I've
but
seen so many of them. I'm trying to remember specifically, but cool.
right on.
Um, yeah, all right. Number four. I have one down for number four, but man, we talked about Heat so much that I'm going to throw that in as a tie on this one,
All
because
right.
I originally had I didn't even think to put Heat on the list
Go.
originally, right? So I guess I don't have the right list. So number four, I'm going to say it's a tie between Heat and Willow, just because
I had a
Willow.
feeling.
Yeah, I mean Willow, it's another one from the from the childhood. And it just, you mentioned Val's character as Mad Mardigan as a villain, but I kind of see him
Villain.
as more, yeah, like earlier you were saying he was more of a villain, a
Uh,
villain, villainous, not the villain, but we know the Queen Bavmorda was the villain, that, but you kind of had him because he was kind of like
well,
antithesis
he
to
was a rogue,
Eleanor.
but I don't think
He
I would
was a
have gone
rogue. He
so
was
far
more.
as villain.
Well, I think
Um,
maybe I'm remembering incorrectly. I thought you said you referred to it as villain earlier. But I would say with that character
maybe.
more anti-hero,
Right.
more on the anti-hero angle, where it's
Absolutely.
just
Yeah.
like, yeah, he is, especially when the end, and he starts fighting, he starts actually fighting for the good and all that, and stops being as much for himself.
And
But
he's just walking charisma in that film. Let's face it.
he is. He is. He just there was, he had all of it. It was just like he had the humor in it. He had the coolness. He was, the fight choreography could have, had a little bit to be desired, but still he had some great fight scenes in there, and it was just, it was just a great fun role.
Mhm.
Heat, also great movie. That his role in that, we've talked extensively about it already, so we don't need to dwell too much on that one again. But yeah, I mean, it was great. It was a great role. He was just like, his character was just fully in control of whatever he was doing at all times. Again, coolness. I think with Val, that's a factor I've always seen in him and all the roles that he plays, is this, he just has this coolness about
Mm,
him.
yeah.
Yeah, he brings it to every single role he's ever been in. And so number three, I'm gonna this one, this was tough, because on a personal level, this will always be number one to me, just in my heart, just because of, what we spoke of earlier with my background in the all that Top Gun. My background of always loving planes, the military family, and all that stuff. I Top Gun has always been a favorite. I remember seeing it in the theater back in '86, and my favorite character actually in the movie was Goose, and I cried when he died. When he and spoiler, but '86, You guys,
Yeah, that one.
everyone
that
needs
one's
to have
okay.
seen the movie by now. So when we lost Goose in that, my 6-year-old self was a wreck so bad in the movie theater that my dad had to take me out of the movie theater,
Oh,
and I missed the whole end of the movie just because I could not handle it.
wow.
Goose was my favorite, and at that point I didn't quite know the difference between pilot and navigator and whatever other term. So I was taken out of the theater while I was crying. Goose was my favorite pilot. So yeah, that one. And I know that one wasn't necessarily a Val Kilmer movie per se. It was a Tom Cruise movie, but Val's role in that, I mean, he
It
again,
was important.
kind of playing, yeah, he's a very pivotal character in that movie. He gave Tommy his competition, and he was, he again was another kind of an anti-hero
Yeah. What
in
would you
that.
call that? A fulcrum or uh, a catalyst? He was a catalyst in that
He
film.
kept, yeah, he kept him on his toes. He kept him going for, he helped Maverick keep his eye on the prize, and just kept it, yeah, he was the inspiration, his Top Gun inspiration to all of his ridiculousness. So, but no, so that was a great one. But I'll put that at number 3 for the intents of the list.
All right.
Number 2, as we this is a result of another thing that we've discussed earlier. Number 2 is Tombstone for me, just based on the character. And
Fair
we
enough.
obviously we're gonna know that Doors is number 1,
Yeah, I
and
was
this
gonna say,
is.
I think I know where this is going.
Yep. So yeah, that's no surprise there. So I'm just going to go ahead and out with it. But yeah, again, it's just based on performance. And I mean, maybe not so much performance, but no, I guess it would be performance. So back to the the fleshing out of the characters. I would say, Tombstone, coming from where he did, gathering his information and all that, as far as as far as artistry goes in creating the character, being a creator, he knocked it out of the park. Creating Doc Holliday with who Doc Holliday, was to be in that movie and all that, and did the so he created that and did an amazing, incredible job, and he acted it out even better. Doors, I'm just I just like I just like how it was a real person where I mean, it's not easy to completely replicate somebody to the point where it's indistinguishable from the original. And that, in my eye, there's a lot to be said for somebody who can fully replicate and not even falter anywhere in the performance.
It is a pretty flawless performance.
Yeah,
I'll give you that.
basically to become somebody that takes doing.
I mean, but the Doc Holliday is also a pretty flawless performance as
It
well,
is. It
especially
is, yeah.
when it overshadows the main characters. You
Yeah,
had
it's true. He
yeah,
was a
Kurt
side
Russell,
character in that movie.
you had Bill Paxton.
Yep.
I mean,
Bill Paxton's another great actor that doesn't get nearly the love he deserves.
absolutely. I mean, I feel like I should do one for him as well.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen more Bill Paxton movies than I've seen Val Kilmer movies, come to think of it.
Yeah, I was shocked when I looked at Val Kilmer's list, and I'm like, oh my god, how many of these have I seen? And I realized I've only seen about a third of his
Yeah.
films.
Yeah, he's done a lot.
Two we didn't talk about were like Real Genius and Top Secret, right?
Oh yeah,
So
those were his two first ones, right?
yeah,
His first and
his
second, I
forays
guess.
into comedy, right? So
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
they're good films. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, but when you're limited to 5, you pick
Yeah.
the 5 that you think you're going to fit on that list, and
That's
it's
true. I
hard
mean,
because I was sitting there looking, it's like, how do I not put Willow on this list? But
yeah.
I had to look at my criteria and what's
Lest
important
lest
to me.
we
It's my
forget
list,
Batman
right?
Forever. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I
not going to my top 5, man.
I hope that doesn't go on anyone's top 5.
I mean, it wasn't awful, but it really wasn't
Yeah,
good.
it was.
It wasn't
He
good.
he made it. He brought a little bit of dignity to it, but at the same time, it was pretty awful.
It
Not
is
not
one of
as
the
bad
best.
as Batman and Robin, but
Oh God, yeah,
that was the start of the downfall.
yeah. It's been a long time. Only recently did I start liking Batman again, and that was with Chris Pattinson. That whole new look and feel with the Batman.
The Twilight guy,
Yeah.
that guy.
Well,
Oh, okay.
and unfortunately, he's got that stigmatism, but I really felt like this was the Batman that I wanted to see. And
Yeah.
it was great because, all of his, it was towards the beginning of his career, right? So all of his gadgets and stuff, they're not foolproof.
Oh yeah,
sometimes they
that one.
malfunction and stuff, and I was like, wow, this is kind of cool.
Yeah, that one I actually need to take another look at because I have only seen that one. I've only seen that one once, and that was when my wife and one of our daughters, well, our other one says she doesn't like movies, so she never watches movies with us. So the three of us will do movie nights every weekend, and that was one of the movies we put on, but only put it on after we had already watched another movie. So it had gotten to about, I think, 1:30 a.m. and they decided to hey, let's put on another one. And I'm just like, okay, we'll see what's out there. And they're like, what about the Batman? So we put on the Batman, and oh yeah, that's a what, 2.5, 3 hour movie, something like that, starting it at
Yeah.
1:30 a.m. I didn't see every little bit of that one.
Oh my, yeah, that's a long film.
Yeah, I
It
didn't
is.
I didn't last. I didn't last for that one. I woke up and saw a few little flashes of it before I would nod off again. So yeah, I need to get back on that one and watch it because I've heard nothing but good things about it, and what I saw was pretty good. But that's one you need to actually get into
Yeah,
and pay
definitely.
attention to. So yeah,
Hmm.
you need to be
So
basically awake for.
if there's any takeaways from our discussion here, it's that Val Kilmer was an iconic actor from the 80s, 90s, even beyond that. But also watch the Batman if you want to see a Batman film.
Yes, yeah,
But
basically,
don't
yeah,
do it at 1:30 in the morning. Um,
yes,
and there are a lot of great films that Val Kilmer made, and he deserves the recognition that he's gotten over time. And watch the documentary, Val. It's worth it.
oh,
It'll
absolutely,
You'll have a whole new
100%.
take on the guy. I mean, I feel like he was a very misunderstood person, and that really shed a lot of light on him. And I was
Yep,
appreciative after watching it. I was like, wow, I wish more people thought to, record their life as they're going along, because
yeah.
it was just brilliant getting that insight. So
Yeah. It was great. It was great seeing all that footage of him coming up, before he was famous and where he came from and all the behind the scenes stuff. It really gives you a good handle of, who he is as a person, versus just characters he plays, which is always a cool thing to see.
yeah. Well, hey, Chris, I'm going to call this here. I just want to say thank you for coming on and being part of this. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for
I've
having
been
me.
wanting to have you on for a long time, and now we finally had a moment where, hey, you're not probably not in three bands anymore, and
Hey, the schedule's
maybe
aligned and
let's
we
work
made
it
it
out.
work. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So happy
Hey,
happy to be here. Thanks for bringing me on, and I had a great time, and hopefully it's not the last time.
hopefully not. And
I would be
to call
happy to
back the
come back
Beatles here,
anytime.
we can work it out.
No, we can.
There you go.
Oh, you paperback writer, you.
Oof, easy now, easy.
I don't know. That one,
Um,
that one came out of left field.
So hey, if you're interested in following Popped or seeing more of our shows, we are at poppedpodcast.com. All of our episodes are there, both video and audio. There's a lot more audio because we started editing for video somewhere about in our second year, maybe a third year. And that brings up another thing. We had a guest on our show who was one of our first Patreon supporters. His name was Victor, and he passed away very recently. And he was on the show. I'm going to edit the video to put that up soon in tribute to him as well. But I just wanted to acknowledge that we lost Victor. So it's very sad and really hard to take. Good friend.
Very
Uh,
sorry to hear.
and on with that. Our emails don't work anymore, by the way. They were owned by a former host, and I have not figured out how to get authority over them. So if you want to email us now, it's poppedreview@gmail.com. I obviously don't have any emails to read on here right now because I don't have access to those old emails. Other than that, thanks for tuning in. I guess, Chris, we're off. And we're
All
leaving
right,
as
sounds
well.
good. Okay, well, hey, thanks everybody. Thanks for listening to me. Hopefully, I'll talk to you again.
I've been gracious, I've been shallow and unkind. Never could control this heart of mine.